Let's talk about the fears around hiring. Yes, I was on a call today with a follower. We were doing a 30-minute business strategy call. It was totally free for her. She was interested in building out a team. And so we kind of looked at her business and see if she was ready to hire a team. Some of the fears that came up for her, I thought were interesting that we could address today, because some of the fears she had were based on what she had witnessed when she was an employee at a salon. And also just kind of the general assumption of what building a team is in our industry. So if this is your first time joining me, my name is Tara Walsh. I'm a business coach for beauty business owners, and I help you go from overlooked to fully booked and beyond, including building out a team. And today we are talking about the fears around hiring. So some of the fears that she was talking about are legitimate concerns, but they're nothing to be afraid of to prevent you from hiring. In fact, every fear that she had about bringing on a team member or 2 or 12 or whatever, to me, there's always a link back to a process that did not work to get the results of having a stellar team member. So I'm going to go through some fears, but if you guys watching or listening have any fears, please DM me and let me know what your concerns are or your hesitations are around hiring, because maybe you're interested in it and you really would like to build out a team. You think it would be amazing to stop trading your time for money and to start to really build out a business that is not solely dependent on you delivering sales and results. But let's work through some of those fears that you have. So feel free to DM me. You can DM me #build a team, or just DM me with what your concern is, and let's talk through it. So the first thing that she was concerned about was she has this heart for people, right? She loves helping people. That is, for most of us that we get into the beauty industry, we love to serve. And she was really worried about what it would do to her if she poured her heart, her training, her amazingness into a team member, and then that team member left. Right. And so I'm sure that's a concern that a lot of people have, of like, I'm going to pour myself into this. And it is common practice in our industry for people to leave. We're in a very transient kind of industry. We have a lot of people that kind of come into our industry. They're here for a little bit and then they leave. We're also an industry that is primarily women. And so there's things like getting married, moving, having babies, just life transitions. Oftentimes there's not a whole lot of ways for people to make a good living here. And so they end up going out and doing something else where they can have more stable income. Those are kind of traditional for our industry, although not always the case. And so, yes, it can be that we have a very transient industry where not a lot of people come in and they stay for decades and decades and then leave or just retire. And so one of the concerns she had about a team member leaving really was more around that she would feel like her feelings would be hurt, or she would feel betrayed, or she would like have this connection with this team member and then the team member would leave. So the first thing that I pointed out to her was, that's called codependency, right? We need to look at the business as we are training team members who, yes, we care about as people and we see them as people. They are not cogs in a machine. They are people who have lives, who have goals, who have dreams. And yes, they are also here to produce a result that we can then sell to our clients and make money in the business. And so we can love our team members and also be okay with them doing what's best for their life. And so one thing that you can work on when you're wanting to build out a team, and that you should be thinking about, is how can I make sure that I am leaving people better than when they came into my business? So whether they're here for a month or a year or 10 years, I want them to be better people because of their experience in my business. Now, that may not be the case for everybody. You may get some bad apples in there that leave all bitter and jaded. They're the exception, not the rule. But if you go into building out a team of, I'm going to leave them better than when I found them, no matter how long they have them, it really helps how you manage and how you lead a team. So my team is that exact same way. I don't know how long they're going to be there. My hope is for years, but that's not always up to me. My goal is to make sure that I'm pouring into them, leading them and managing them, and being the evidence that there's really great jobs out there, and it can be a really great culture to be a part of this company. And that's what I help you guys do, you salon owners do, is build out a great team culture where, yes, the job is kind of the same. They're producing the results, their artistry, whatever, but they really stay because they love the culture and the environment and the mentorship and the leadership. That doesn't mean that we cross boundaries where we go from being the leader and the mentor to being the best friend, because it gets really hard to fire somebody if they're not doing their job because you have a personal relationship with them. Trust me from experience. So we really want to have clear boundaries and emotional regulation to not cross a line where we're getting too friendly with our team members and they're thinking that where we're just blurring lines between subordinate and leader or boss. Okay. The next thing that she had was, will I lose money? Is it going to cost me money? Is it expensive to hire? I know there's payroll taxes and all these other insurances, and it can be very costly to have an employee, at least here in the US. So all of that is numbers and data. There is absolutely a lot of ways to have a profitable business, especially when you build out a team. When you are not tracking your finances as a solo business owner, that is not the time to build out the team. First is getting track of your finances first. Once you have a profitable business by yourself, then we can look at how can we start to create more sales and more profitability by adding in more team members. Because as a solo artist or a solo provider, you are capped at how much time you can put into delivering on the service, right? So you can only go so far before, yes, you can raise your prices, but you are capped by time. When we create a scalable business model, that means that we can grow the business without growing your time in it. And this is a great reason to bring on a team, is that we now start to outsource and delegate out the production of the services by hiring a team to deliver services. So it's not just you doing it. Now our sales can increase without you having to be the only one doing it. So when it comes to how much is it going to cost, we always want to look at the profit margins. So this is where we actually have to look at how much profit is each service bringing into the business. And then we add in a labor cost to that to see, is the business still profitable when we add in labor costs? Your labor cost will always be the highest expense you have in your business. It should be, at least. I mean, if your rent is higher than your labor, you either have really cheap labor or you have really high rent. But we need to be able to track the money coming into the business and money going out to even have an understanding of what would it look like if we increased a labor cost or added a labor cost to the business, and would we still be producing profit? So all of that, I have podcast episodes on that. I have a actual calculator online. You can go plug in those details. If you want that information, DM me and I'll send you those links, and we can talk about what your obligations are as far as payroll taxes as the employer, what your price point is, but all of that we can kind of navigate to determine this is the rate that you can pay someone and still have profit in the business. Oftentimes, without looking at that information, and you just happen to randomly hire somebody and you see, well, everybody else is doing 50% commission, so I guess I got to do it too. You know what happens? In about 6 months from now, you're gonna DM me crying, being like, I'm not making any money, I'm losing any money. Like, my team members they want to raise and I don't know what to do, and like there's just no money. And we actually look at your financials and see that, well, with the pay structure you have and the way that you're running your business, you're actually losing money every time that team member takes a client. And they go, what? How is that? They're producing, like, I charge $100 for a classic fill. How am I losing money? Well, if 50% of your sale is going towards the labor cost, then you have 8% of payroll taxes on top of that. All of a sudden your labor cost is 58%. And then you have the rest of your business to run off of the remaining 42%. And most of y'all aren't running a super lean business where 42% of sales is going to cover it. So if you have 50% of your business sales go towards operating expenses and 58% going towards labor, well, you're operating at an 8% loss. I know it's a lot of numbers, but we can get into your specific numbers if that's of interest to you. But that's the information that you need in order to know how much you can profitably pay someone. Because it's more important for you to know how much you can profitably pay someone and then go find the team members that will work for that, as opposed to finding a team member who will only work for this amount, right? 50% usually is what you tend to find. They have the most experience. They've done this the longest. I don't have to train them. They're ready to go. I call that warm body hiring strategy. Scotch agrees with me. So we have to have this data in order to understand what we can profitably pay a team member first before we ever go sourcing somebody to come work for us. Because if the team member you want won't work for what you can afford to pay them, then they're not actually the right team member and you shouldn't hire them, because then you're going to be losing money in your business, and that's kind of counterproductive to the whole goal. Next up, one of her concerns was that she was actually struggling to pay herself. So she was thinking, if I add on a team member, that'll bring in more money and then I'll be able to pay myself more. No. Paying yourself is a discipline that happens no matter what level of the journey you're on. As a business owner, you can't blame anybody else for why you're not paying yourself. If you're not paying yourself, that's a you issue up in here. You're either pouring money back into the business, thinking like, I just need to keep pushing everything back into the business, or you're not tracking your financials. And so you may be spending more money than you absolutely need to be able to run your business. And we got to pull that back. We got to be able to pay you some sort of affordable wage, keep the business going, increase sales so that it can cover both. Otherwise, you're going to be making financially scarce decisions. And that doesn't make for a good business owner. When we are so scarce with money and we're just making money grabs, that is not great to build out a team. We need to work on that first, and we need to get you in the habit of paying yourself first, so that when we add on team members and more sales and more expenses and all this kind of logistic stuff, that we are still making sure that you are covered and paid as well. Last up, one of her final fears was that she was worried that team members were going to steal clients or open up a business very close by. And that is a legitimate concern. I will say the reason why, and this is just my personal opinion, the reason why salon suites and solo business owners are so the thing to do, it's like the hot carrot, right? And believe me, I take advantage of that. I have programs that teach solo business owners how to go from overlooked to fully booked. The reason why that is such a popular option in our industry is because most salon employment is illegally misclassifying their employees, taking advantage of employees as independent contractors, not paying them a profitable wage, not paying them legally and structured that way. And it is taking advantage of employees, which also is affecting the employers. They're not thriving in that business model either. So having any sort of team culture when you have a stressed business owner who's also locked in the treatment room trying to take clients because she needs to be able to afford this team, it's not fun. It's not a great place to work. And that is more of the common rule in our industry as opposed to the exception. The exceptions in our industry are those that are building out great team culture, who have healthy profit margins, so the owner is not making scarce decisions, that she can pour back into her team, both financially, both with perks, both with benefits. You know, the thing that whenever, even our mastermind members, when we talk about how to pay someone a wage and their belief that they need to pay more, which I'm all for compensating people, hell yeah. When it comes to, you know, maybe it's a $20 an hour rate that we're talking about paying someone. And they're like, but they could work elsewhere for this much or whatever it is. I ask them, do you think it would make you more competitive in the marketplace of people hiring these lash artists per se to offer $25 an hour as opposed to $20 an hour? Or do you think offering $20 an hour with medical benefits would make you more competitive? And they go, well, nobody's offering medical benefits. Well, that sounds like something that might be unique to you that might retain your employees, because they can go work for $25 an hour, but they're going to be paying their own medical, right? But if you offer medical benefits, guess where that medical benefit pay is coming from? Money left over, right? You've got your operating expenses. If you've got healthy profit margins and you want to take on a medical insurance expense, you've got the wiggle room to do that. But all of a sudden, it's just like, no, I got to compete on how much I can pay someone. When you have a brilliant team culture, when you have a lot of perks and benefits and you care about the team members as individuals, pay is not the highest thing that makes you competitive. In fact, when you are trying to compete on how much you can pay someone, you likely, and I say this with love, get the entitled types, that you actually can't pay them enough to stick around. They're just there long enough until they go out on their own and they're sick of splitting it with you. When we hire people based on their alignment with your business's mission, vision, and values, which is what we teach inside of our Society Accelerator, you get people who want to row in the same direction that you're taking this ship. When we are only hiring based off of what we can pay someone, we got people that are just going for the money. And it doesn't create a great team culture. So when we talk about team members stealing clients, we should have contracts in our business that protect the business assets, right? Yes, non-competes. Yes, they're hard to hold up. That's more of a conversation for a lawyer who is licensed in your state to know, how do we protect the business? Because yes, your business assets, including your client list, are protected property of the business. There's non-solicitation agreements, meaning that if somebody leaves, they can't go hitting up your employees, your client list, or your vendors to be like, hey, come over here. We can have intellectual property agreements. We can have all of these different contracts to protect the business. And even still, even if that team member walks away with clients, so be it. You should know how to market your business to increase sales and keep sales coming in. When we have a process-dependent business and not a people-dependent business, it's the processes in the business that deliver the results and the experience for the client. So we can get more client loyalty to the business as a whole, no matter what people are in the business, right? So when you take the brilliance that is your brain that has delivered client results and experiences as a solo provider, and we start to map that out in a step-by-step process, we can then teach that to somebody else to deliver basically the same results and experience that you can get. Now, yes, their personality may be different and they can build a clientele based on who they vibe with the most. Totally cool with that. But when it comes to the results that the clients can get and the experience, that should be very systemized. So that even if that team member gets pregnant and she's taking a maternity leave, you've got other team members who can still deliver on that result and experience. So the client is not the one to suffer if a team member leaves or has to take a break or goes on vacation or she calls out sick. You should have a process-dependent business. Because when we have a people-dependent business, our sales are dependent on any given person in the business, including you. If you want to start getting your time back and not have to trade your time for money, we need to get what's in your head into a process so we can teach somebody else to do it. That's where the freedom comes back with your time, is when you're not the only one that has all the knowledge, all the results, all the systems and whatever, and you're the only one that can make the business work. When we can get that out and start to process it, then we can teach other people to do it. And that's where you can start to get your time back. That's where you can start to scale the business. If you have consistently are hiring people who are stealing team members, you have a hiring process issue. There are not questions that you're asking in your interview process that are weeding out the toxic bad apples who have a propensity to not operate in integrity and who like to steal. We can fix our hiring process. If you have team members who are inconsistently delivering results and experiences, if you've had a team member for 6 months and she still can't get retention down, if she still can't get lashes to last, if they're still not full, if the styling is off, your onboarding process was not efficient to get to the result and experience in a reasonable amount of time. We teach to a 90-day onboarding process that over 90 days, that team member should be pretty much fully ready to go and trained to do all of the services in the business. And we can be strategic in what they're focusing on each week to make sure that at the end of the 90 days, they are ready to produce the results and experience that your business has become known for. So all of that to say, if you are interested in building out a team, I know it can be scary. Trust me, believe me, I've been building out teams for years. I know the hardships. I know the ups and downs. I know the challenges that come with it. And I also have the skills and the tools to be able to help you overcome those. So let's talk about your concerns about hiring, that maybe you can see where it would be beneficial to start to hire in your business and build a business beyond just you. And if there's any hesitation, any fears around that, let's talk through it so that we're actually basing those in reality, because there's always a solution to every problem and we can get you solution focused. So DM me, hashtag build a team, or just DM me with your concern about hiring a team that you really want to, and then fill in the blank after that. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me. Have a good one.